Here in Rosemont, we start with our first three head coaches, and we have Iowa, Minnesota, and Nebraska up here. The big news with Iowa is Lisa Bluder retired, meaning Jan Jensen is the new head coach. Minnesota coming off a 20-win season, and Nebraska bringing back a whole lot of talent to their roster. We'll have full team breakdowns coming up a little bit later on throughout our day, as our coverage of media days for the 24-25 season is just beginning. But we start off by bringing in three of those head coaches now, just to kind of have a roundtable chat minus the table. We do have Amy Williams starting her 9th year at Nebraska, Dawn Plitzuweit in her 2nd at Minnesota, and Jan Jensen's 1st at Iowa. It's Jan's 1st year as the head coach, so I assume you two have promised you'll take it easy on her, maybe rest the starters the first half when you play her.
I have not got that email from you yet.
I mean, now's a great chance if you guys just want to take the opportunity.
We're just welcoming Jan.
Right,
yeah, we've known Jan for a long time.
Yeah, you're right.
She's going to do a great job.
All three of you have been in the league for a handful of years now. Give me an idea how strong Big Ten women's basketball is at this moment in time.
Go ahead, Jan. You've got it. You've been in the Big Ten the longest, I think, girl.
I have. I'm new but old, right?
Right.
I think it's tremendously strong. It always has been. But then when you're adding, our friends from the old Pac-12, it instantaneously gets a lot stronger. People have asked me often, what does that mean for the Big Ten? I said, well, it means it gets a whole lot tougher to win the Big Ten championship, but it also makes it a whole lot more fun. And I think all of us in the Big Ten, what we love about it is, there's not a cupcake in the Big Ten. And inviting those folks in, I mean, it's it's no different than getting ready to fly to, play Maryland. We're gonna have to bring our A game for everybody in this league. That's how I feel about it.
Well, I think certainly the strength of the Big Ten has continued to grow over the course of time, and now it takes another step forward, and that's exciting. It's exciting. Women's basketball is on this massive growth period right now. We're in the middle of it, and now we add 4 teams that are going to continue to help us build our brand nationally, and it's really exciting for us.
Yeah, I think we've been saying a lot lately that we've never seen anything quite like what we're seeing right now in women's basketball in general, but I feel like this league might be unlike anything we've ever seen before. Just the competition from top to bottom, 18 teams, 18 of the best teams in the country, and just pretty special. To be the best, you have to play the best, you have to beat the best, and we're going to have that opportunity pretty much every night.
Right. Well, and obviously the headline grabbing part about this year is the new addition to the West Coast teams. But to your point, this league has gotten so much stronger in the last handful of years. I mean, I remember not that long ago, when we started the network, we'd be doing the Big Ten tournament and talking about how, there's 3 teams that are going to make the NCAA tournament. And we're ways away. I mean, we're triple that this year. What is it about the core of the league, whether it's coaching, players, atmosphere? What do you guys think has changed in the last handful of years?
Well, I think the depth of the league, as you're talking about, has continued to grow, which means I think it's a mix of great players, great coaches. Last year, the league was as veteran as ever, and I think this year is going to be another veteran year, again, where we have a lot of players using COVID years just nationally. But, I think it's just the experience in the league is something that is really, really special and very challenging.
What do you think, Amy?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that the coaching in this league is just unbelievable, and the scouting, the IQ of the basketball players. But every program, every coaching staff has seemed to raise the bar with transfer portal recruiting, bringing in some of the best players, retaining the best players in this league, and we're watching just outstanding, deep built teams continue to advance.
And I think with that, the fan bases have gotten much more involved. They're educating themselves. I think when I first started in the league, no one was caring about our recruiting. I mean, we obviously were. But now you can't get on Twitter without somebody telling me, who we're going to get, who we're not going to get, and they know exactly who's coming to a football game and who isn't coming. And I think that just is another sign that people are vested. They know what's at stake if we get a kid, if we don't get a kid. And I think when we play, we have such great rivalries right here being border states. But the fans come out for those games, and I think that just adds to the excitement. It adds to our ability to really go into homes that we probably weren't in a decade ago. and be able to say, hey, you come here and you're going to be be playing in one of the premier leagues. And when you get the better players across the board, then all of a sudden what Amy said and Dawn said, it gets to be an unbelievable game atmosphere. But also what you have to do to prepare scout prep is pretty incredible.
It does feel like almost every single Big Ten stadium has set an all-time attendance record in the last 2 years for a home game. It's been really fascinating to watch. You brought up the transfer portal. I think the three of you all seem to have slightly different rosters in terms of transfer portal. Amy, a lot of your roster is kids that you've had since they were straight out of high school. Jan, you have a lot of that too. You do have one of the biggest transfers this year in Lucy Olson. Dawn, you have a mix of a bunch of transfers coming in this year as well as some freshmen. How has the way you look at players who can come into your program changed over the last few years since the transfer portal became a thing? I'll start with you, Dawn.
Well, I think certainly we really want to build this program at Minnesota and base it around young ladies that we can bring out of high school and continue to grow them and have 4-year players that continue to build this into something really, really special. At the same time, we now have opportunities to complement the players that we have with players that are coming in from the transfer portal. And I think it's an opportunity right now to really strengthen our program. I think it's to strengthen our conference. You're seeing that across the board within our conference with the quality of players that are being added out of the transfer portal. And I think it's something that makes the league and each one of our programs, but the league even more challenging because we have a chance to become more veteran. And last year we were the youngest team in the Big Ten in a very veteran conference, not necessarily where you really want to be. And so having an opportunity to become older and become more veteran is something that we've been provided that opportunity with the transfer portal.
Yeah, I think the transfer portal recruiting has become something that all of our coaching staffs kind of across the country are like becoming good at. And, I think for a while it was, high school, then, people started really looking internationally. And, I think internationally, there are a lot of young women that think I can come to the United States and play on a big stage with college basketball. And now I think transfer portal is just another aspect that you're paying attention to on a daily basis. As a coaching staff, we're coming in and really working to establish the relationships we always have had in the high school recruiting realm, but knowing that that's a huge part of recruiting moving forward. And, staffs are getting really good at it.
I think the transfer portal is really interesting because there's no right or wrong way of which to use it. Our philosophy has been to use it strictly for need-based, not necessarily to get better right away based. Not one is more right than the other. I think you mentioned Amy's, veteran team. A lot of the kids, stuck together. That's how our teams the last couple of years were. And I think the fan bases really have appreciated that. I think I hear a lot of times fans, whether it's in football fans, men's basketball fans, sometimes it's hard to connect if the portal is used. And in men, it's a little bit different because you got the one and dones on top of sometimes the portal. So my preference is to use the portal need-based, and we needed a point guard. It was harder to get one after Caitlin Clark, even when she was playing. Definitely hard when someone didn't know if she was going to use her 5th year or not, right? So we're really grateful that we got Lucy Olson. So it's going to be interesting, as Dawn mentioned, as we continue to traverse this journey of how to use it and what philosophy you can continue. I think all of us are trying to remain a college basketball team. And in this day and age, it seemingly gets harder and harder to remain that. But I think that's the reason we all got into it, is to coach, high school kids and see them develop. And that's certainly what I'm going to try to do.
Jan, Dawn, Amy, thank you for starting off our roundtable discussion. Enjoy the rest of the day today.
Thanks. Great. Thank you.
Back here on Basketball Media Days, our next three teams will be USC, Washington, and Rutgers. The Trojans are the preseason pick to win the Big Ten this year. Huskies bringing back a whole lot of talent from last year, and Rutgers, as they do usually under Coquese, Washington, bringing yet another talented freshman into their program. So with that, we're glad to bring in Coquese, Washington, her third year of Rutgers. Lindsay Gottlieb, her fourth year at USC, and Tina Langley starting her fourth at Washington as well. And of course, two of you are brand new to this conference. So let me start with you with this question. In what ways has the change in conferences for both of you affected your program?
I'll start. I don't recognize as many people here as we did in Pac-12 Media Days, but really the national, I think, brand has impacted us greatly. I think a little bit with the resurgence of our program, connected together has allowed us to get into homes and, be more recognizable across the country. But I would say the number one thing is the exposure and the way that it's impacted us and made us a little bit more national.
I think just change brings opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to grow and to learn new styles of play, new venue, to go across the country and get an opportunity to be in homes of different recruits and just from a national brand, a really great opportunity.
And I mentioned already, Coquese, you have a great history of being a very good recruiter, but now you're in a conference that is literally a national conference. How does that change things?
It's so much fun recruiting and being able to talk about our conference and to talk about the new teams that have joined our conference, the fact that we're in the three biggest media markets in the country and you get to play in front of so many eyeballs and so many people. It's so much fun to recruit within the Big Ten and talk about the strength of our conference, and I think it's going to have a big impact for all of the schools in our conference.
And there are great fan bases, there are great players, there are great buildings. I want you to each give me an example of a venue that you're excited about playing in this year that maybe you don't have as deep of a history of playing in. Start with you, Tina.
Well, it's hard to pick a venue because you want to be respectful of all the student bodies.
No. Let's get some bulletin board material right now, Tina.
Well, I think the truth of the matter is the Big Ten has historic buildings to play in with historic teams and fans. And what makes college athletics so special are the student athletes and how they come and show up for their teams. And it's why we all coach it's the people that we get to be associated with. So we're excited to play in so many historic buildings and with incredible fan bases.
I went to this past Friday. We had Washington come play football against our Rutgers team, and the electricity and the energy in that stadium was amazing. So I can't say there's one specific venue, as I'm just really excited about the new rivalries that are going to be built, the new opportunities to play against different competition, and our fan bases they're gonna support that. And I just saw it firsthand with Rutgers and Washington, and I think that those kind of experiences are going to happen in women's basketball night in and night out in our conference.
I'll give you one.
Yep. Well, and the cool thing is so many of these buildings now, as we were talking in our last segment, are setting records for attendance. Mm-hmm. So there are more fans being at whatever venue you're at than we've seen in years past, which is pretty cool, even before adding the electric nature of the environment of having a Washington and a Rutgers meeting up. We talked in our last segment about the transfer portal. Let me lump in that with NIL. Those are two big picture changes that we've been talking about for a few years and have been impacting all sports in college for a while. Does it affect the parity in women's college basketball when the transfer portal is what it is right now and NIL is what it is? Do you find that it adds more parity?
I absolutely think so. When I was coming back from the NBA, there were people who were like, well, why would you want to go back to college basketball? There's all these changes coming. NIL is on the horizon, player autonomy. And I'm like, these are things that should have been happening for years. So it's not something that scared me. In fact, I've really tried to embrace it, but I think it allows programs who are rebuilding to rebuild a little quicker through the transfer portal. I think that NIL is kind of a hot button word, but it really speaks to opportunity. And I think players can now see the way they can be successful at a number of different programs, not just one or two. Not just one or two are on TV. Not just one or two provide opportunity to succeed and become a pro or, figure out what they want to do after college basketball. So I do think it's really opened the playing field a little bit, and that makes for a more exciting product across the board.
As our game is growing and our game is changing, these opportunities are really what makes women's sports and women's college basketball special, because you have so many opportunities to see yourself in different ways, to see yourself at a different university, to see yourself as a different way and as a professional, And so I think all the changes are just a growing out of the growth of women's basketball over the course of time. And it's an exciting time to be a part of women's basketball.
I think we all got into this game because we love young women and we want to help them through their maturation years of their life. And so it's an opportunity for us to help them. Our mission statement is about supporting, encouraging, and developing young women on their journey of becoming who they want to be. And one of the things that we talk a lot about is leadership. And so they're business women now. And I'm so grateful that they have that opportunity because they get to sit across from CEOs and companies and have an opportunity to work on who they want to be. And people use the term brand, but I think it is more about your character. Who are you, and who do you want to be known as, and who do you want to help represent? So it's a great opportunity.
It's like I mentioned, it's not new anymore, either of these things, but it does still feel like in the infant stages of NIL and the new transfer portal. You guys deal with this on a daily basis. The rest of us kind of just see it from the treetops. Are there things that should still change? Are there some suggestions you think of? We could do this to make the transfer portal or NIL a little more appropriate for everyone. Or do you like where it is right now? Stumped you.
Well, I think because it's such an ever-changing space. I mean, we really don't even know what the space is looking like when you look at the legislation and the court settlements that are still out there. So it's kind of hard for me to answer that question because we don't really know there's not enough stability right now. There's so many things that still need to be settled before we can say, now we need to really make a change or an adjustment here.
Yeah, I mean, I think however it changes or wherever it goes, and I think all of us would say the same, it doesn't change the integrity of your locker room, right? It doesn't change that it's about creating a winning culture and growing the young women in your locker room and empowering them to be ready to handle all of this stuff that's coming. I think that's the number one thing. I don't really spend my time as much thinking about, well, what should be changed about the transfer portal or where exactly, are the rules going to shift? Obviously, if we end up going to revenue sharing, we all need to be ready for that. But the idea is you have to be able to shift with the times, center your players, give them the tools to really embrace all of this, and not have it change the integrity of your locker room and what you stand for as a program, because I think that's like the secret sauce, maybe to embrace this new landscape, but still think about what impacts winning and what impacts a positive experience.
And not only just impacting your locker room, but impacting our game and maintaining the integrity of our sport. And that can't change because women's basketball has long been the sport that has tried to be on the forefront of change, but at the same time upholding the integrity of athletics and women's athletics. And so with all these changes coming, we don't want to lose that in our locker room, and we don't want to lose that in our sport.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we just want to continue to have a culture of care. And so in our program, we really want to focus on how we take care of our young women. And so in any capacity that we can create change and opportunity for them and that we could care for them in an elite manner, that's what we want to do.
With all the changes and the fact that rosters have a pretty decent turnover oftentimes on a year-in, year-out basis, I'm curious about the importance of off-season bonding, right? There are the rules where every once in a while you can do a foreign trip, for example, or maybe your team just schedules a scrimmage with maybe a crosstown school in the summer, something for fun, or maybe it's bowling that you do as a team. How important are off-season bonding activities for your teams nowadays?
Well, I think the most important thing in college athletics are the relationships that we get to have. And so the more time we can spend together and in our community and traveling across the world, it's opportunity for experiences. We were fortunate enough to take a foreign tour to Italy a couple of years ago. And, obviously we're going to travel across the country and play nationally. And so it's an opportunity to get to know more people and just build relationship.
I think those things have to happen year-round. Not just in the summer, but, creating a team environment, creating a culture where we care for one another, we love one another, we support one another, we encourage one another. We're there good times and bad times. That has to happen year-round in order for their experience to be as magical as it should be.
Yeah, I mean, they've said most of it. I would add that in this era of rosters being a little more fluid and there's more change every year, a lot of these young players know each other before they come, right? A lot of those relationships are formed because there's a like-minded, okay, I might want to go here and do this with you, and let's see if we can do this together. So a lot of it begins before they get there, and then, I think to the points they've made, it has to be organic and it has to be all the time. It's not one big bonding trip and then you forget about it for a couple months. It's every day. Us having the pulse of our teams and what do they need? Do they need time together off the court? Do we need to watch film and, attack something basketball-wise? I think it's that constant pulse of what the team needs and what you're about. And if the players are bought into that, that's when it becomes very organic.
That being said, when there are foreign trips where you're going to Italy or whatever, do you ever need a broadcaster to just maybe document it or something next time?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, that was a yes. You're on record. People were watching that. Each of you give me an example of something you're excited about seeing this upcoming season with your team and with the league in general.
Well, the very easy answer is we are opening in Paris, so I'm excited about seeing our players see the Eiffel Tower, seeing our players experience that. But then I would just say each and every new venue. It's also very new for us, so I think I'm really excited to see the Big Ten atmospheres across the country that we're going to get to experience and how our players react and respond to that.
I'm excited to watch the talent in our conference. There's a tremendous amount of on-court talent. I think there's a tremendous amount of coaching acumen that our coaches bring to the table. So I'm excited to see the talent, see the coaching, and see the games played out because I think Big Ten women's basketball this year is going to be such an exciting brand of basketball. I'm looking forward to watching it.
I'm just excited to spend every day with our young women. I thought it started this summer. I love the way that they came into the gym, the way that they just came together as a group. It's a really special group of young women. Our staff is just elite. I'm so grateful to learn from them and just to be together daily. We don't want to look ahead to anything. We just want to really be present and enjoy the people around us.
Coquese, you mentioned the league being so good right now. You have such an interesting perspective because I was mentioning in our last segment, 12, 15 years ago, there was a time when we'd be doing the Big Ten tournament and we're like, well, Coquese and Penn State are in the NCAA tournament. We think 2 more teams. And now it's like almost every team has a legit shot at doing it, and a whole bunch of teams have a chance to make a deep run. What has it been like watching the Big Ten grow, not just in the numbers, but in the talent that the basketball teams have?
It's been amazing. It's been amazing to watch the growth of the conference. I think the television opportunities has helped that. It's helped us build a brand nationally so that we can go out and recruit the best talent across the country, and to see the performances in postseason play and to see the runs that Maryland has made and Ohio State has made and Iowa has made. Those things have given our conference a lot more pride, and I'm excited to see that continue to grow this year with, all the talent that we have, and the Big Ten season is going to be competitive, and then we get to cheer for each other in postseason play, and that's going to be a lot of fun as well.
What has it been like for the two of you to watch the sport of women's basketball? You're new to the Big Ten, but you're not new to this sport in particular, and the leaps and bounds that it has made in the last handful of seasons.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's unbelievable to be a part of where the sport is now. I think there's this tidal wave, there's an apex, and it feels like we're only going to grow from here. It's been incredible to see the opportunities grow for women, to see the game take on, the exposure that we've gotten, and just really grateful to be where we are right now at this time and be a small part in it.
Yeah, I think we always want to honor the history, and I think the history of women's basketball is deep, and there's so many great players and coaches that came before us. But the way that the national media has really embraced women and women's basketball has been so beautiful and honoring, I think, to the women who've played this game. So we're just excited for that to continue to grow.
Yeah. One of the most exciting players in the league, in the country, is Juju Watkins, who's going to get a ton of attention this year. What's it like coaching her?
she's unreal to be around every single day. I think it starts with her effort and her care factor. I've told this story before. Her first workout freshman year was a conditioning workout. She dove across the line to make her time, and we're like, okay, we think we've got something. Because when your best player and the one who gets the most attention also puts in that type of effort and has that type of care for the program and her teammates, I think that gives you something special. But she's electric. I had a men's basketball coach stop in the gym the other day, said, he's grown up watching players from, Ann Myers to Cheryl Miller to all the great ones since. And he said, I think she's the most talented I've seen. And so for someone to say something like that, she carries a lot on her shoulders. She's always trying to improve. And I think Big Ten fan bases and opponents will be excited because she just brings a level, of intensity that makes the game better.
What is it like for you two as coaches when you're in that situation where your best player is the one who's trying the hardest? How does that affect the rest of your team?
Yeah, always just such great leadership, right? We want to make sure that our leaders understand the weight that they carry is not alone and that the team comes along beside them. And I think we have that environment at Washington. I think we have a servant leadership style of culture. And so when you step forward to lead, you have a group of people around you. And it's been great to see young women all step into that role.
It raises the competitiveness of your gym. And if your practice gym is competitive and if your practice gym is intense, then that will carry over to game day. So when your best player
back here from just outside Chicago, Rosemont, as we continue our Basketball Media Day coverage. Next three teams we're talking with are UCLA, Indiana, and Oregon.
Last thing before we go, I would normally do this
back-to-back years. Indiana, now a national powerhouse program, and Oregon, such great success historically under Kelly Graves. Added a bunch of transfers this year.
Look at this video.
Very excited.
Oh, that's from USC.
We're glad to bring in Cori Close, Kelly Graves.
Happy birthday,
and Teri Moren now as we
appreciate
continue
it.
our
It's today,
roundtable
but they weren't going to see me, so they celebrated.
Let me start with this.
Yesterday,
Again, happy to have
really
two
nice.
new West Coast additions. How have you noticed your programs changing now that you are officially members of the Big Ten?
Go ahead.
Well, I don't think it's changed a whole lot. When you get to be my age, you kind of keep things pretty much the same. But I'm actually really excited. At first you have mixed emotions, but once I had a chance to really dive in, see the new schools, the new coaches. By the way, great coaching league.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about that Indiana coach, by the way?
Wow, one of the best I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. But no, I think it's just the opportunity to go to see new places and see new programs and play against new people. I think is really exciting. So, I don't think it's changed me much, but it's kind of rejuvenated me a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's just the bottom line is if you want to play in the best, you want to be led by the best and be a part of a group that's going to push you every single day. And I think the leadership of the entire Big Ten has been really impressive to me. Actually, Kelly and I were talking at the coaches meeting just how impressed we were with the leadership and vision, especially in these crazy changing times. I just feel really secure to know that I'm stepping into the best league in the country.
Have you noticed a change, Teri, in terms of recruiting, that now it is literally a national conference?
Oh, there's no doubt about it. It's the competition now, right, with recruiting and going up against some of the very best, in the country has made it even more challenging, I think, for everybody. But, we're excited. The league, the Big Ten was already really a good league, and just with the addition of these four, it's even that much better. And we're excited now that we can talk about expanding, right, and going west, and being able to talk to recruits also. Well, even though you're from that part of the country, there's an opportunity maybe to come to the Midwest, but also go back, right, where some of your family and friends are, and be able to play in front of them as well. So, we're excited with the addition of the four really, really great, teams.
The schedule this year with 18 teams will be 18 conference games for each squad, which means 16 you will play once, and one team you will end up playing twice. Early thoughts on that schedule?
I think it's the only way you could do it. I think this first year, I think it's definitely the best road to take. I think there's going to be some of it where we're just going to have to feel it out this first year. But I love that, it's going to be, everybody's going to be pretty much balanced. And so I haven't been a part of a balanced schedule like that for many years. And so, and then for playing your rival twice, I think it's going to be a really good situation, and I'm excited to do it.
I think Cori hit it on the head with the balanced schedule. You know, for the longest time, and I've been in this league, you know, for
a little while.
Yeah, a little while, and you know, that was always the source of concern, right? Was not playing a balanced schedule, and so I think that it's such an incredibly difficult challenge, you know, for the Big Ten to put together a schedule. But you know, I think as Cori said, I think this is the best way to do it right now.
Well, one of the things that is interesting as a coach is the ability to make adjustments, and so when you play a team twice, you know, you can that's kind of fun. It's a fun challenge, and we just don't get that opportunity. By the way, the two LAs playing each other twice is going to be great for the conference, great for women's basketball in general. I mean, I've seen those two programs up close for a long time, and what they have going is pretty special. But yeah, I think it's great. You know, that's a lot of different teams that we get to play, a lot of different styles, and so it will be challenging as a coach for sure.
You know, we could have a home and home. We'll just make it like a 34-game conference schedule.
Not
Tony
playing
Petiti,
anyone
you
else.
okay with that? We'll just they're all on board.
Actually, I wouldn't be opposed to that because it's hard to get people to come to Eugene.
Yeah.
We're way out there in the middle, kind of nowhere.
That being said, you bring me to my next point, which is one of the themes with women's college basketball is how the casual fan has started gobbling up this sport. You've all been coaching for a while now, and there has long been a core of wonderful women's college basketball fans. But sometimes in certain places, those casual fans on the perimeter just weren't there. What is it like with all three of your history in the sport to be seeing the way that those casual fans are not only coming, but they're staying and they're bringing friends?
Right. Well, for me, you know, I'm obviously older and have watched, you know, this great game evolve, and so I tell our kids all the time what a great time it is to be a female in sport, but particularly in women's basketball right now with the popularity and all the people, the crowds, the fans that are coming out to watch us play and stay and keep coming back, and so. You know, it's been really, really great, you know, for me to watch it evolve, develop, and so grateful that, you know, I'm still present here to be able to see it happening, and you know, I think we can continue to make more steps also, you know, to you know, our goal is to sell out Simon Scott Assembly Hall like our men do. That's one of our goals, and you know. Some might say that'll never happen, but I'm the optimistic one. The glass is always right half full for me. I think we can get it done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you know, just I started my coaching journey back in the 80s, and to see the difference in athleticism and skill and excitement has been tremendous. I mean, it's incredible, and especially with the last few years in the Big Ten, the way the crowds have come out. That's what I'm really looking forward to. There are some venues in our older conference that, you know, just quite frankly didn't draw that well at times. And now to know that you're going to go into most arenas and it's going to be full, avid fans, you know, who are really into it, I think is going to be pretty fun. And again, to see, you know, what our counterparts down there in LA have done. And there were times, right?
Oh, it's tough.
And not too many years ago where it was tough to draw. Fans, you'd go down there and you'd know pretty much everybody in the stands. Now you can't get a seat, and so I think it's just, you know, we're riding the crest of a really big wave, and I think we need to keep that going.
Yeah, that's well said.
Yeah, I've been coaching 31 years. I've actually been in both of their arenas to play them when it was packed, and now to have that be a part of the Big Ten Conference family is spectacular. At UCLA, we had our first sellout since 1978, and so over 13,000 people, and we are expecting 3 to 4 of those this year. And to just be a part of the progression, it's really not about any of us. It's about being a part of something in a growth curve that's bigger than any of us. But for me, just watching it is like, okay, this is going to go long past. And I think you hit it great in terms of the casual fan. It's the person that has always watched from afar, and now they're jumping in. And I think we're getting more and more of that, and I think we're just scratching the surface.
Have any of you had to have a conversation with your players of like, this isn't normal. This is not what we had when we started out. Like, I hope you're appreciating having this kind of attention in these fans.
I want them to think it is normal. I want that to be their standard. So I want them to have great humility and gratitude. So I do think there's a part of understanding the history of that. But at the same time, I want them to think this is a baseline expectation, and we just want to see it grow from here.
I agree with Cori, but I try to remind our kids always, especially after the game, to take that moment, right, and just look around at all the people that are there to support them and, you know, be in Simon Scott Assembly Hall on that Saturday afternoon. It's because it is incredible, right, and I want them to take those moments and remember those moments, what that feels like, and so completely want it to be the standard, but I also want them to be in the present moment and have a tremendous amount of gratitude for the fans that come out and support us.
Well, and I'm excited for the rest of the Big Ten to see what a great venue Matthew Knight Arena is. We have avid fans. They've you know, we've had great fan support for a long, long time. They understand basketball, and it can get really loud in there. So, you know, again, I'm as much as I'm excited to go to other venues, I'm really excited to see fans come and enjoy Eugene.
New floor is super cool, too.
It is
Different
pretty
shade,
cool.
The ducks migrating.
Yeah.
Cool.
Fewer trees. You know, we had so many trees on the old floor. We had a lot of freshmen that got lost in them trees. On the defensive end, a lot. So, yeah, the new floor is spectacular.
Give me something that each of you are excited about, specifically when it comes to your team, whether it's a new player or a development of something or a venue you're going to visit this year. Let me start down there with you, Cori. Something that you can't wait to have happen this year.
Well, I think two things. One is our depth and versatility is spectacular. It's the most talent, but also the most with different ways we can play of any team I've ever coached, which is really fun. But it's hard to pass up on. We opened the year in Paris playing, Louisville, to be one of the first college basketball games, men or women, to be played on ESPN in Paris. What a dream! So I'm very excited to experience that.
Well, for me, we've had a couple of, down years by our standards. There was a time we were one of the best programs in the country, and I think with the new influx of transfers, a couple of really nice freshmen, and just a little bit, some of our bodies back healthy this year, I think we have a chance to be a really good basketball team, and that's one of my goals, is to kind of get us back to where we've been in the landscape of women's basketball, and I think this is the kind of team that can do that. And like Cori, I think we've got good depth. We finally have some really good experience, and we have a lot of versatility as well, especially at the guard line. We've just got a lot of depth at the guards, and and I've been around college basketball and coached some of the best guards in the world. You got to have good guard play, so I'm excited about that.
Well, I'm once again excited about our team, some experience, some veterans, but then just the development of those younger kids, that have been waiting for opportunities, and the work they did over the summer, and, just being in practice with them right now. Once again, like I said, they're the best part of Indiana. And just to work with them every day and get excited about working with them every day. I think the sky's a limit for this group. We've had to play differently, with the graduation of Mackenzie Holmes and Sarah Scalia, and so that has made us become better coaches. We've had to go back and study and look at our personnel and really dive into playing differently than we have the last, probably 4 or 5 years when we had Mackenzie on the inside. So, that's something I'm excited about. And then, I've been to Oregon, been to UCLA, have never been to USC. We're not doing that this year, but we are going to Washington, and have never been to Washington, so looking forward to that trip.
You all have taken advantage of the transfer portal in various different ways, because that is the norm. That is the reality of the sport. I'm curious something you've learned about the transfer portal in the last few years. Give me an idea of something, the way you choose to attack it, or maybe has it changed now than it did 2 or 3 years ago for you?
I feel like it changes every day. It is. It's challenging because of the fact that now that with the NIL, I mean, there's other components to this thing as far as being able to go in and be successful, diving into the transfer portal. And so, but, if you can find the right kinds of kids that for us, that want to be a part of the culture, want to be a part of the work ethic, they're all looking for something different, right? And it's not always about the NIL. I'm not suggesting that, but just trying to find the pieces out there that will fit with what we have, the foundation of how we've built Indiana women's basketball. I think that's always a challenge, for us. But we've had a lot of success doing it. The kids that we've found out of the portal have been really good for our program.
Well, we've been a program that I think has given a lot to the portal, and really some good ones on Teri's team for sure. But I've been, as a coach that's been around a while, I was kind of slow to embrace it, quite frankly. And this was really the first year that we've kind of gone into the portal and I think gotten some really, really good players. Just like Teri said, I think, you're able to fill, some specific needs that you have right now. I think the fact that a lot of the players are older, a little more experienced, it certainly helps. I think that's a plus. Yet, it's yet to be seen, how it's going to affect us. But I think it's certainly a positive. The NIL, that's a whole nother issue. But I've always been a fan of the player movement. I think that should be the case. Unfortunately, I think it's gotten to where they're moving too often, and sometimes not for the right reasons. But anyway, excited to, and like Teri said, it just continues to evolve.
I think bottom line for me is that it's like it's so fast. You have to be have to do your homework at a really high rate. You have to be able to be a really smart relationship builder, and you got to know exactly what you're looking for. Relationally, style of play, how they're going to fit in, because there's now not any margin for error. So I think I have 2 people on my staff that are completely designated to, watching that, researching that, keeping me abreast of things that I'm going to have to be aware of. And so it's just a part of our game now, and we have to adjust to it.
Last thing for you, the 2 of you, again, new to the conference this year. What kind of welcome to the league gift has Teri given you?
I know.
Is it not yet?
I keep waiting for a really good bottle of wine from her, but it hasn't happened quite yet. So.
Yeah, the biggest difference is just the fact that we got to dress up. Yeah. I have one suit, right? And I use it for weddings, funerals, and now Big Ten Media Day. I've been casual for a long time. At Oregon, we were kind of the first ones to set the trend of just, matching polos and shoes and things like that at games. So it's a little uncomfortable. Yeah. So this has been my welcome to the Big Ten.
Well, my plan is when they come to Bloomington just to give them some really great recommendations on where to eat.
There you go.
And there's a lot in Bloomington.
That
so
counts.
And I would not trust you, Coach. I would not eat there.
But to say that again, once again, we're so grateful that Oregon and UCLA and USC and Washington have become part of our Big Ten family. Again, great coaches, great players. It's iron sharpens iron. They're just going to make us all so much better. And I think the goal for our league is, somebody needs to win a national championship. It's been too long since a team in the Big has been able to do that. And so, I'm hoping that this might be the year that the Big finally wins a national championship.
Teri, Kelly, Cori, thank you for your time. Yep. Best of luck this season. Looking forward to covering you.
Thanks so much for having us.
Got some heavy hitters in the house here. Michigan State turns the page in year 2 under Robin Fralick. She's the first head coach in program history to make the NCAA tournament in her first season. Kim Barnes-Aricon led Michigan to their 6th straight NCAA tournament berth last season, the longest streak in school history. In Happy Valley, Penn State racked up the most wins in a decade with 22 last season. The Nittany Lions have improved each year under head coach Carolyn Kieger. And we welcome you back into Rosemont, Illinois. So glad to have you here. I am Kylan Mills, joined by those 3 head coaches who I just mentioned. Penn State head coach Carolyn Kieger, great to see you. Michigan's Kim Barnes-Aricon and Michigan State head coach Robin Fralick. How's everybody doing this morning? You guys have your coffee? You should bring the energy up a little bit here.
We're ready to go.
Yeah. All right. All right. That's what we like to hear. Well, I want to start out by addressing the biggest change to the Big Ten this season, and that's 4 new schools joining the conference, 18 taking part for the first time in Big Ten history. Kim, as the longest tenured coach up here on the stage, 10-plus decades, what do you expect to change in Big Ten basketball with those 4 new additions?
Well, I thought the Big Ten was the greatest league in college basketball, but adding those 4 teams really puts an exclamation point on that. They're 4 outstanding programs with incredible coaches and tremendous student athletes inside their programs. So I just think it's going to bring more depth, more talent to our league to make us the strongest league in the country.
What about you, Carolyn?
Yeah, I'm just obviously thrilled to play against such storied programs. I think it's only going to enhance the product that we had last year. Deepest league, phenomenal student athletes who are playing at the best in the peak of their basketball careers with phenomenal coaches that we get to go head-to-head every night. So best conference in America, and we're excited to compete.
How about you, Robin?
Yeah, we added really good teams, really good players, really good coaches. I mean, echoing what's been shared, it makes our league even better, and it's coast to coast. I mean, the Big Ten now has its stamp on the entire country, and so we're grateful to be part of it.
The theme that's been echoed throughout the day today has been that this is the best and most competitive women's basketball conference in the country. I'm curious to hear from you, Robin, as a coach who was on the outside looking in another conference just a couple seasons ago. What were your views of the strength of the Big Ten before and now that you're a part of it in terms of the level of play?
Well, something I love is just how much more attention has been on women's basketball. And so, coaching, when I was a coach in the MAC, being able to watch Big Ten basketball consistently, I was just in awe of the level of talent, the size, the speed, and then really good coaching. And so then going up against it, it's like, oh, wow, it's as good as you think. And it just keeps getting better, which is what's really fun about it. It keeps getting better. And our league, this year, has been said, is going to be as good as it's ever been.
Kim, as a coach who's been around for more than a decade, how from the inside have you seen the conference change in terms of the talent, the quality of play, maybe the style of play?
Yeah, it's continuing to grow every year. And I think, Robin mentioned from coast to coast, it gives us the ability to really go in the homes of everyone around the entire country because our footprint touches everyone. So it allows our recruiting base to really grow and to have the best players in America in our league. And I think that's really important. The coaches are continuing to improve and continuing to get better. Every year it's just getting greater. And I came, I say 10 years ago, but actually it's been more than 10 years ago for an opportunity to be a part of a conference that was growing. And here we are, 12 years later, really kind of taking over the world, it seems like. So, just the best players, the best coaches, and an opportunity to be a national brand for sure.
Carolyn, for you building a program, how has the strength of this conference helped as you're trying to make that happen?
Well, I think obviously for us as competitive coaches, we want to go recruit student athletes who want to play against the best of the best. And that's what the Big Ten provides us, an opportunity to sell. And night in and night out, our young women get to play against the best players in the world. They get to go against the best coaches in the world. So for us, when we go sell that and we sell it to competitive young women who want to be elite, who want to be their best, there's not another conference that they can go to get that, with 18 teams deep.
As you make a point about the talent, a lot has changed when it comes to recruiting that talent in the era of name, image, and likeness. Players, they're looking around to see how much money they can get offered. I've talked to coaches who've said, it's a little bit of a dogfight out there when it comes to recruiting players. What has changed the most about your job as a result of name, image, and likeness? And I'll start with you on the far side, Robin.
Well, it's part of it. And so, and I think there's a lot of really good parts of it. And I think the female athletes we're in a better spot than ever. I have an 8-year-old daughter, and I told her the other day, get outside and shoot, girl. Never a better time to be part of women's basketball. But, the things that matter still always matter. I still think when you're at practice, when you're in a huddle, when you're on the court with your kids, that feels exactly the same. And so those parts, I love that. And then I think there's just more opportunities than ever for female athletes, and I think that we've got to find ways to make that all work together, and so there's a really exciting part to it.
Same thing, you're bringing in a big freshman recruiting class here this season. What changed in terms of that process with NIL?
Yeah, I mean, just to echo Robin's sentiments, I think, coaching basketball is coaching basketball, and your practices and your huddle and all of that is the same. But these opportunities for women and that's really important. And I have 2 daughters as well. Just the whole landscape has changed, and we have to evolve with that change, and we have to embrace that change. But we have always talked to our student athletes about using your platform and growing the game and growing yourself and growing opportunities for women. What an incredible, incredible time. And I think we saw that with, our league last year. But for our incoming freshman class, you're having opportunities that people a year ago didn't even have. We have to embrace that. We have to find, they have to find, or the world has to help in these sponsorship opportunities for these young women that can really change the world. They're bright stars, and they're finally having a chance. And I just think it's an incredible time.
I think it also provides our young women a chance to grow. And we talk about things with our players that we didn't talk about 5-10 years ago. Building your brand, growing your brand. How do you advocate for yourself from a business standpoint? How do you give back to the community with local companies or local businesses? And I think for our young women, they're set up for success after basketball or making an impact in life beyond the court. And those opportunities are such phenomenal, valuable experiences for them to grow, to learn, and to be able to take with them for the rest of their lives.
It's such a good point about the learning curve in terms of the business side of things and also the social media, the branding. Like, how do you as coaches try to manage now that side of things too, in addition to developing these young women as people, as leaders, and as basketball players? Now you throw in that side.
Well, I think it's part of the 360-degree view of who they are as a human being, right? So when you talk about player development, now it's human development, and it's about growing who they are off the court just as much as it is their jump shot or their rebounding. And for us, we have a tall task to make sure that they're set up for life in every area. And I think this is just another opportunity and platform for them to grow, even when it comes to contracts, when it comes to negotiating, when it comes to taxes and all that stuff, that they're really set up now and they're getting opportunities. And so when people talk about name, image, and likeness, these are some amazing stories that are happening across the country, especially for student athletes and females at that.
I think our university has also embraced those educational opportunities as well. So the University of Michigan has implemented a number of programs on financial literacy, on taxes, on contracts, and we have an incredible business school that has really helped us as well. So we have different programs in place and different seminars in place that our student athletes attend to really, besides us as coaches, helping them learn that landscape, but the whole university embracing that and helping our student athletes become educated in this space.
Yeah, everything that's been shared is really relevant. I think similarly at Michigan State, we just have a lot of resources. I think our athletic department's done a really good job of providing opportunities and educational opportunities. And one of our favorite things to say in our program is that when our kids graduate, we want them ready to launch, right? And now they're more prepared than ever. I mean, I think of a lot of the things they know that I wish I would have known when I graduated, and some of it you learn the hard way, right? And you learn as you go. But I think more than ever, these opportunities are preparing them to launch and be very prepared.
Your guys' jobs are just incredible. Because you point out you have to develop the person 360. You have so much on your plates, and now you add in the chaos, or it's kind of like a free agency in a way in terms of the transfer portal. You look at all the movement you see now. I'm just kind of curious. We'll start with you, Kim. What do you find is the right balance in terms of bringing in players and developing them, and then finding those win now or maybe ready right now recruits in the transfer portal that do bring in that experience?
Yeah, I think, just like NIL, the game has changed. The landscape has changed. So it's our responsibility to continue to evolve and continue to grow as coaches, as student athletes, as young women. So I think this is just another area. It makes it interesting because every university is different. And, the University of Michigan is not an easy place to go to school. I mean, the demands, they pride themselves on excellence in the classroom. So in the transfer portal, we really have to be selective on, who is going to be a great fit for our program, who's going to be a great fit for our university. And we've been very fortunate to get some great transfers. But I think that's probably for all coaches would say that while going through the process, you have your culture, you have, stuff established inside your program that you have to get players that are a great fit. And whether that is a student athlete that's coming out of high school or whether that is a student athlete that wants a change in their college decision, it has to be a great fit for your program. And I think that's really important. That's really important to the athlete, and that's really important to the players in your program and to the university. So we have to change. I mean, that's the common theme that all of us are talking about up here today. That's the reality. That's the world that we live in. So we have to embrace it, and we have to learn, and we have to grow and kind of have fun with it. So it's been an interesting time. I'm interested to hear from these guys. Sorry. I feel bad for Robin. She always goes last. So she.
That's all right.
So I was going to pass the mic to her on this one, but I really tried to help her out and go first.
Appreciate that, Kim. It's part of our game, and I think it's equitable. We all know about the portal. We all have the same access to it. We all, kids can leave and come just the same. And I think that's a part of it that's good, right? And the other piece is there's a strategy to everything we do, and the game has changed. And so you have to pay attention to what that looks like and how our specific needs fit. And I think what's shared is when you're really clear about what you're about and what your culture's about, it attracts that, right? And that it attracts that with high school student athletes, and it attracts it in transfers. I think one thing, we have 4 transfers that joined our team this season, and they're wonderful people, and they've really blended into our team really well. And I think they knew exactly what they were looking for. And so there's some parts of it that, once you kind of learn as you go through, I think it's clear of what you want or maybe what you're looking for. So it's part of the game. It's for sure part of our league. And I think there's been some really good things that have come from it.
That's something a lot of coaches talk about, is that with some of the veteran players, they know what they're looking for, too, so you can better match that right fit. I'm going to put a little spin on this for you, Carolyn. As we're talking about looking for the right fit, how do you evaluate that in such a finite amount of time, especially if you're looking at players you didn't recruit in high school, you're trying to develop that relationship very quickly?
Well, I think a lot of it is different depending on what your philosophy is, but I know a lot of us recruit players the second time around. We got to know them in the high school process. We got to know their families. We got to know their coaches. So if they do enter the transfer portal, we have a little bit of familiarity. We have a relationship built out, a little bit of authenticness already happening. So you're not having to do it in, a 20-day window or one official visit. But when those opportunities do arise, it's asking the right questions. And I think that's where we as a sport are continuing to evolve. The student athletes, the parents, the coaches, we all have to figure out the exact right questions to ask in a short amount of time to find out exactly if it's a right fit and what both sides are looking for.
I want to wrap up here by talking about just the growth in women's basketball we've seen in the last just year or two has been incredible. And Robin, I'm going to let you go first since you've had to go last so many times and follow up these two. But I know you have a daughter, Clara. And when I saw you last season, you mentioned she got an assignment at school where she was asked to write down or draw what she wants to be when she grows up. And she drew a Michigan State basketball player. Yep. So you get to see this through an eyes of a young girl. What kind of impact is women's college basketball making right now?
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. I actually got to take her to our first WNBA game this year. So we were at the Chicago Sky versus New York Liberty. She has a Caitlin Clark jersey. She has an Angel Reese jersey. She shoots in the driveway and calls herself different professional players' names. Her favorite place to be is at our practice. Our team is unbelievable with her. She feels like she's part of the huddle. Now, with all of this being said, she got to get to work. We got some work to do. But I love that she's part of our huddle. Our team has really embraced her. A funny story, last year she came with us on a few road trips, and the road trip she joined us on, we won. So the team began to be like, well, it was like a Wednesday, and it was Tuesday afternoon, and I got asked, is Claire coming tomorrow? I'm like, she does go to school. They're like, but she's our good luck charm. So it's amazing. It's better than ever, and I'm really fortunate to see it through not only the eyes of my players, but to see it through the eyes of an 8-year-old.
Homeschool. That's the only answer, right? For Clara, of
sure.
course. Good luck charm.
I'll put the team in charge of her.
Ooh, might be a little dicey here. How about you, Kim? What's it been like in the last decade plus to watch the growth of the women's game and the excitement that's building ahead of this season?
Yeah, similar to Robin, I have 2 daughters, and it's just great to watch them grow up in this space. And last year my daughter was a senior in high school, and she had to give a number of speeches at her school, and every single time she got up, she talked about how great it was to play for female coaches, whether that was in lacrosse or whether that was in basketball, and how great, they were such great mentors, and they really taught her, what it was like to be a strong, powerful woman in that space, and how important it was to play for a female. And then I would ask my younger daughter, who's in high school, what are you thinking about for college? And she's like, I don't know, but I'm definitely going to play for a female coach. And I was like, wow,
Yes.
okay. And 20 years ago, that wasn't the same, because there weren't that many, opportunities to do that, or there weren't that many women in the game. And it's just nice even to be sitting here right now and look to my left and look to my right and see these strong women and just the opportunities that we're going to have. We just recently hired on our staff. We have a all-woman staff right now, and Natalie Achanwa, former WNBA player and four-time Olympian, and she's like, well, Coach, I almost didn't come into the business because I have a young child, and I didn't think I would be able to juggle things and have this opportunity to be able to do this and still raise my son. And I think it's really important for us as women to give other women those opportunities so we can continue to grow the game for women. So as much as our game has changed, and I mean, last year was absolutely incredible, especially in our league. I'm watching the W right now. It's I can't wait. I was so bummed last night that I was flying at the same time the game was on. I couldn't wait to get to my room to call up my girls or my son even, and just talk about the game. And my boy, he's in college playing. Like, his buddies watch all of our games. So it's cool to see that everyone is following women's basketball. Everyone watches women's sports.
Yep.
And the platform that we have and the impact that we have, or our student athletes have, over young, growing girls and boys is absolutely incredible.
What's it like for you, Carolyn, being in the eye of the storm that is the excitement around women's basketball as a women's head coach?
I think it's obviously just so refreshing for a young woman to walk into a packed arena, to see that, they're worthy of these crowds, that the buzz that the media is giving in social media and live TV and commercials, that they can aspire to have these huge dreams and actually have them come to fruition, right? And I think, if you build it, they will come. And women's basketball has shown that is a reality. But it's not just happening in women's basketball. It's happening in women's volleyball, women's soccer in the Olympics, Simone Biles in the gymnastics. It is a phenomenon right now that I think the entire world is figuring out. And it's well overdue, but no doubt deserved.
Well, as a woman in broadcasting, I just want to say I appreciate all three of you, your leadership, what you bring to the floor. It's incredible. It's been fun to watch, and we're looking forward to watching much more this season. So thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Up next, Maryland head coach Brenda Frese has led the Terrapins to 6 Big Ten regular season and 5 tournament titles. The Terps were picked top 5 in the preseason poll. Things looking up in Champaign. Head coach Shauna Greene returns the team's top 4 scorers, and the Illini are fresh off the inaugural WBIT title. Head coach Katie Gearlds brings some big-time talent to West Lafayette. The reigning 2-time NAIA National Player of the Year, Ella Collier, joins the Boilers, so a lot to be excited about with all 3 of these programs. Welcome back into our Big Ten Network coverage of Big Ten Women's Basketball Media Day. Glad to have you here. I'm Kylan Mills, joined by those 3 head coaches. We've got Maryland head coach Brenda Frese, Purdue head coach Katie Gearlds, and Illinois head coach Shauna Greene with us this morning. How you guys doing?
We're great.
Doing well.
Great.
All
Excited
right.
to be here.
Right? Ready to kick off the season. Let's go. Well, let's start with the big change to Big Ten women's basketball this season. 18 schools now taking part in Big Ten women's basketball, with 4 new West Coast schools joining the party. We'll start from left to right. Brenda is the most tenured coach of the group. What are you most excited about with this new era of Big Ten women's basketball?
Like I've always have been, the competition. We're adding 4 more great teams into the league, and every night it's going to be a battle. So going to some different places geographically when we go to the West Coast, so that'll be a fun experience for our student athletes. But I think we're all up here because we love the competition.
Yeah, just agree with everything Brenda said. We've already have a deep league, and we add 4 elite teams to our conference. and excited to get out to the West Coast and welcome those guys into the Midwest and whatnot. But you think about the talent across the board. Not an easy day in the Big Ten for us.
No days off, that's for sure. Shauna, what about you?
Definitely not. I mean, already, one of the premier leagues, and now you add 4, like Katie said, elite teams. It's going to be an absolute battle every single night. Now you talk about making that trip to the West Coast. We have to do it one time. They got to do it multiple times. So it's going to be interesting to see how the travel and everything plays out. But just, the addition of those teams, there's no doubt about it. This is one of the toughest leagues, if not the toughest league in the country. And like Brenda said, and Katie, I'm sure feels, we're in this league because we want to compete against the best players, the best coaches. And I firmly believe that this conference has that every single night.
The best players, the best coaches, the best crowds, at least based on the last couple of seasons. And now you've got the West Coast travel, you've got elite programs. What are you most excited about just in terms of the momentum this conference brings heading into this upcoming season? This time we'll start with you, Shauna.
I mean, this conference, every place you go, it's such a tough environment to play. And that's what's, I think, the game changer with the Big Ten. And for being in it for 2 years, it's so hard. Obviously, you're going on the road to play a really good team, but now you got to combat the atmosphere. And from 10,000 to, 16,000, whatever it is, it's just so hard. So you add in atmosphere, you add in, elite players and coaches. Like I said, it's an absolute gauntlet of a schedule.
Yeah, it's fun, right? Like every day you're going into somebody's arena or you're having a home game and records are being broken, attendance records are being broken, sellout crowds, the team talent, the individual talent, where our game is going right now. We're just excited I'm excited, and I'm sure all of us are, just to be a part of it and to see young women get the opportunity that they have now.
We're at an amazing time right now with women's basketball, and you see these arenas, being sold out and all the eyes that are on us. And obviously these arenas, every time you go into one, it's going to be a difficult environment. I think what makes it unique this season is that every game, just the importance of it, you're only playing each other once, except for the one partner that you have. So it's going to feel like the NCAA tournament every night, because that's going to matter when you talk about later in March of your tiebreakers and who's beat each other. So it's going to be fun to watch.
You talk about the importance of every single game. You got to manage travel in the Big Ten schedule. You also throw on the non-conference schedule. And Brenda, you traditionally have a very, very difficult schedule at Maryland. I know that does pay dividends when it comes to the net, but again, it's a long, grueling season. What do you prioritize when you are creating with your staff that non-conference slate?
Well, I think the biggest priority is you do want to find that balance, because you've got to find those rotations in your roster. But for us, we also don't, we want to be prepared when we go into conference play. So, for us to be able to bring in, as many NCAA tournament teams that we're going to face, with Duke coming in and heading up to Syracuse, playing Texas over Martin Luther King weekend. So all those games are in preparation to really help us when we come into Big Ten play.
Yeah, same. We're in a position where we're not quite where these guys are, but we want to get there, and we want to get Purdue back to the top of the Big Ten where it once was. And you don't know where you are unless you play those teams. Obviously, every night in the Big Ten is going to be a battle. But second game of the season, Notre Dame's coming into town. We've got Kentucky on roster. I think Kenny's going to do a great job there. So. And then we get to play the defending champ, South Carolina, down in Fort Myers. So I'm excited about the opportunities we have to hopefully prepare us for, when we kick things off against these guys in December.
I think it was Teri Moren who said earlier today, iron sharpens iron, right? So you look at the non-con, you look at the conference schedule. Shauna, what about you? How do you go about shaping that non-conference slate?
I mean, I think every year kind of warrants something different of what you need, and obviously we return a veteran team, so you got to schedule accordingly, and you got to schedule hard. So we're prepared for this league, and that's one thing I love about this league, that our coaches don't shy away from playing really hard non-conference schedules, no matter what. I mean, everyone we're playing, it speaks to what we and how we go about our business every day, and that's why we're also
very prepared when it comes to conference play. So we have open up with Florida State at home. We have Oregon State, we have Marquette, and then we play Kentucky as well. So I'm excited about bringing some top teams into State Farm Center, which we have not had in my first 2 years. We've kind of had to go places to have some of those ranked teams come in. So I think that, we have a really tough non-conference schedule, but we need that. And we need that because, like Brenda said, every game in this league matters, and you can't drop a game you're not supposed to, and you got to take care of your home games. It's just a whole nother level when you get to conference play.
In order to build the best conference, you have to bring in the best players, and recruiting has changed so much in the last couple of years. You got the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness affecting everything you guys do. I want to start with the transfer portal. For example, with you, Katie, you bring in a player from another level, and I'm always curious to find out as coaches, like, how do you evaluate that player's skill set translating from, for example, NAIA into Big Ten, very physical, very competitive basketball at the highest level?
Yeah, being someone who coached at the NAI level, Ella was the last recruit that I brought in, actually, to Marion. And, basketball translates, shooting translates, and that's one thing the kid can do. Obviously, the game is faster and stronger, and young women are just bigger at every position, longer at every position. But if you can play basketball, you can play basketball. And I find that so far so good. I think it's translated pretty well.
Fair enough. Brenda, you're nodding your head. Just kind of curious, what's your evaluation process when it comes to the transfer portal? Are you typically leaning into players you got to know during their high school career, or is it just that complete speed dating process, as it's been described to me by some coaches, in terms of calling someone up, hey, we got to get to know each other in the next 2 weeks?
Yeah, you stole my word. Absolutely, speed dating.
Yep.
I think for your culture, and Katie just spoke of it, when you have a prior relationship and a dynamic, that helps. I think that's huge when you're going through the transfer portal. But there are times, absolutely, that you're speed dating, you're getting to know a kid, a family very quickly within a few weeks. Your staff has to be on it in terms of the amount of evaluation and conversations that you have in a short amount of time.
Shauna, coming in as a coach who was new to Illinois just a couple seasons ago, you're trying to build your program. How much are you looking to bring in players you can develop versus, hey, I need experience and I need to look to the portal to find that and put that on my roster?
Yeah, when we took over, we had to build a whole roster because we only had 5 returners. So we actually went the route. We had a couple players that came with us from Dayton and a couple of kids that we had recruited the first time around at Dayton that told us no and went to other schools. And then they came back. And so we built it that way. And then the last 2 years, we've really addressed needs through the portal. We have not recruited solely with the portal, but we've also remained a core group that's been here. So we want to do a mixture of both. We're going to look for the portal to fill needs, but we still believe in recruiting high school kids, really good high school kids, and then developing them and having them in a program and a system for 4 years. And I think that's where we've had success both at Dayton and now here at Illinois. And also, I always say this, I don't know if it makes me a good or a bad recruiter, but we've lost a lot the first time, and then we've gotten them back the second time. So we've had relationships with those players that we typically get from the portal, and so you really know who they are, know what they're about, and I think that fits our culture.
It all comes full circle. They say no once, but they come back around the second time around. That is. One other question I want to follow up with you about specifically is managing your roster in the era of extra COVID eligibility. For example, you this year had 3 of your star players who decided after the season wrapped up, hey, we do want to come back. And I know in talking to coaches, that can be a huge challenge when you've got freshmen coming in, other players who are transferring in, expecting to play. You've got to manage numbers. You've got to manage playing time. How do you go about navigating that process?
I think that comes down to the culture and the relationships that we've tried to build, and it's about the team, and we all have a common goal. We want to win, and we want to win at a high level. So we kind of had an idea that those 3 would be coming back, and our freshmen last year grew and got better, and they stayed. And I think that's the important thing. If you can keep people in your culture and in your team and just continue to develop them, that's when you can have those senior leaders and that veteran group that can kind of pass the torch down of your culture. And that's where something that's really important to us. Now our freshmen and our sophomores this year get to look at our senior 5th year and regular seniors and see this is how you lead, this is how you go about the standards at Illinois and how we go about our business every single day. And that's where it can start passing down and where it can have sustained success, which is what we're trying to do here.
It sounds a lot like the buy-in is a big factor, because you've got to have those freshmen and sophomores who are bought in and willing to say, hey, we'll wait our turn. We're going to stay. We believe in the vision. We know our time is coming. Katie, curious, same thing from you. Just how do you try to manage the roster in this era of post-COVID where players may come back for fifth years?
Yeah, you know, I think Shauna hit it exactly on point. You build this culture that young people want to be around, and you know, I think we've got a pretty good example in Matt Painter and what he does at Purdue, and how those guys just regularly come back, and his culture of, you know, he doesn't have one and dones or two and dones, like it's 3 years, 4 years player. You know, they get to the national championship game with Zach coming back. You know, Matt's great. I get to go into his office and chat with him, and or sit on the lake and talk together. But got a pretty good resource in Coach Painter there, and would love to emulate what he's doing.
Yeah, I think it continues to come down to relationships, conversations, communication, so you're able to manage your roster. I will say I'm glad after this year, the COVID year is out of the window, so we know what legitimate rosters, and we're not seeing these 6th and 7th year seniors that are out there. I'm all for it, but you know, it's nice that you'll actually kind of have a better idea of rosters as you're moving forward.
Fair enough. Something we continue to talk about as we inch closer to the season is just the excitement, the momentum, the crowds for women's basketball. My question to each of you is, how do we now take it a step forward this year? How do we keep that momentum going and ramp it up a notch?
You know, I think you continue to, you know, produce great, product, great teams on the floor. You know, I think our marketing departments now are all next level, doing a phenomenal job. People are watching the games. We're on television. The exposure is there. But at the end of the day, you have to continue to have great talent. And I think when you look across the board at all these rosters in the Big Ten, everybody has done their job through the recruiting process. So, you know, that bodes well for all the fans that are putting their eyes on these teams.
Yeah, exactly that. You know, you've got to have good talent and good product on the floor to be watched. I think we're in a position where everybody's doing their job for us, and now it's our job to continue to do it and to elevate our game. I think we are headed in the right direction. I think I think the WNBA fed off of the college season and the numbers that they're having right now. Now in the playoffs, it's been incredible, and I think we've got some really, really good players. I always challenge my buddies, like, hey, come watch once, and then you're going to want to bring your buddy again, because it's, I said it before, like, women can hoop.
Shauna, what about you? But that is a pretty good ending point. Women can hoop.
I don't know if I should say anything more after that. Same thing. No one wants to come watch boring basketball. No one wants to come watch, you know, they want to watch winners. They want to watch an exciting brand. They want to watch teams get up and down the floor, and that's just what people want to see. And I think that's where it's getting to now. And the talent across the board is just unbelievable. Every team in this league has players that are really fun to watch and systems that are really fun to watch. So I think we're just going to keep on growing this, and it's a moment, but I think we just got to continue to, you know, make this just the standard of what this is what women's basketball is.
Women can hoop, folks. You heard it here first on the Big Ten Network. Well, Shauna, Katie, Brenda, really appreciate the time. Best of luck this season. And you'll be back on the desk later, so don't go too far.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Women's Basketball Media Day rolls on here on the Big Ten Network. Ohio State head coach Kevin McGuff reloads after leading the Buckeyes to 25-plus wins and NCAA tournament berths in each of the last 3 seasons. In Madison, Wisconsin head coach Marisa Moseley returns big-time talent Sarah Williams. The Badgers keep increasing their win total under Moseley. High expectations in Evanston this season. Northwestern head coach Joe McKeown brings back 4 of the Wildcats' top 5 starters. Those 3 are joining us right now here on the Big Ten Network. Welcome back into Rosemont, Illinois. Kylan Mills here with you alongside the 3 head coaches that I just mentioned. Ohio State head coach Kevin McGuff, Wisconsin head coach Marisa Moseley, and Northwestern's Joe McKeown. Joe, I know you're thrilled to be here. How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great. Easy on the gas mileage, so yeah.
Right, exactly. Evanston, not too bad, not too far from Rosemont.
Yeah.
All right, well, fair enough.
Thank you.
A new era of Big Ten women's basketball is about to get underway. We're just a couple weeks away away from 18 teams competing for a title in this conference. I know. You guys had heard that already, right? This isn't the first time you're hearing that?
Yeah, thank you so much for that.
Right, yes, I know. I thought I was letting you know some really proprietary information here. But a lot's going to change. What are you looking forward to most, and maybe what are you still waiting to see in terms of managing some of the travel and the other factors that play into it?
Yeah, I'm looking for. I mean, I felt like last year we had the best conference in women's basketball. Clearly, we do this year with the addition of the West Coast teams, and so there's just a lot of talent. And so I'm excited to compete against some of the best teams in the country. We know it's going to be a huge challenge, but it's going to be really fun to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I would agree with Kevin. I think, we always say in recruiting, we feel like we have the best conference in the country. And I think also just the new challenge for, when you're playing new teams and we're only playing everybody once and one team twice, that's also going to be kind of a new challenge. And so I'm really looking forward to seeing how that goes, and obviously more opportunities for more teams to get into the tournament.
I think one thing, I was watching my player last night, Veronica Burden, play in the WNBA for Connecticut. And, just coming off the year we had NCAA-wise and watching the pros, I just hope we can take advantage of this opportunity in women's. We have a great window right now. Our game is so hot. We got great coaches and players, and I think we have the attention of the fans. So, really, that's what I'm looking for and looking forward to.
The excitement surrounding women's basketball right now, unprecedented, with the Big Ten really a catalyst for what we saw last season with Caitlin Clark, the Big Ten women's basketball tournament selling out, sellouts all around the country. It's been really fun to watch. But as coaches who are seeing this all play out, Kevin, what's it been like for you?
It's been wonderful. I mean, it's a great time to be a part of this sport. I'm just really happy for our student athletes that they get to experience the crowds, the media exposure, and just the overall growth of the game. And I think Joe's right. We've had tremendous growth, and hopefully we can continue to capitalize on that. And I think we've got, even though Caitlin left, we've got still great star power in this league. We've got great teams, and I think the interest is there, and I think it's going to stay and only get better.
Yes, I agree with Kevin. No, just kidding. Yeah, exactly. Second that. No, I think to his point, though, it's a great time to be in college women's basketball. It's a great time to be in women's basketball, obviously, with the WNBA happening right now in the playoffs. I think there's great new viewership, and something that, often said, like, oh, man, women's basketball is so hot right now. It has been a really popular sport for a long time. I think we're really fortunate that there's more media attention now on it, and I think just like anything else, when you give and invest in it, there's always a return, or you hope so, especially in the stock market. But no, I think it's a great time, and really excited that we have so many men and women and young girls and boys watching and seeing these incredible women doing something that they love.
Well, that's the thing. The talent always was there. The competitiveness always was there. It's just now people are being exposed to that. Joe, as a coach who's been around women's basketball the last decade, what's it like now to see some of that be recognized in what your players are accomplishing on the floor?
Joe's been around for 4 decades, but anyways, that's
okay. All right,
story.
we did need to get specific here, Kevin. I know you guys got a little something going, but come on now.
Thank God I look young, but this is my 42nd year in women's basketball, and one thing, just being part of it, and I taught on my staff, I have a great player, Tangela Smith, who played 15 years in the WNBA and one of the great players in the history of Big Ten Player of the Year. We talk a lot about pioneers, and, we talk to our players about that a lot. And I think everybody up here is a pioneer and has given their whole professional career to women's basketball. We all got stories, of driving minivans, 15 passengers, stopping at McDonald's, and it was great. It was great. If you lost, it wasn't so great, but the drive, 8-hour drive back, and I felt like I was the luckiest guy in the minivan that day. So hopefully, the pioneers and the people that have set the table for what's happening now, I hope this group appreciates it, and I think they do.
You all are such a huge part, too, of continuing to move the game forward. But before we look ahead, Marisa, I'm curious, has there been a moment for you as a woman who's a head coach in basketball where you stopped maybe in the last year or two, you looked around and you said, whoa, this is how far we've come?
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm a little bit probably not a great example of that because I got to be a part of a dynasty at UConn for a long time as an assistant coach. So I had a lot of those moments. But I think as a head coach, whether it was when Caitlin and Iowa came to the Kohl Center, and we had a sold out crowd or close to a sold out crowd, and we joked, and I actually addressed the crowd and just said, this is incredible that we can do this in women's basketball, and you give credit where credit's due, but at the same time to know that there's fans in Wisconsin, the state, who also can continue to fill those arenas. But I think it's also just I think each time that I walk into any arena and get an opportunity to lead women in this sport, and you think back to Joe's talking about driving minivans and how far the sport has come, and so many different things. We just had a reunion with one of our 76, 77 teams the other day, and they were talking about even for the athletic trainer would get ice out of the cups from outside to use ice. Like, there's just a lot of things that have improved, and these young women, there was women who came before them, and we have a responsibility to make sure that we carry that torch.
What about you, Kevin? You've got court stormings going on in Columbus. There's all kinds of excitement around your program. Was there ever a moment where it hit you just in terms of how far women's basketball has come?
Yeah, no, it's just been really fun to see and to be a part of. And like I said earlier, just happy for our student athletes. But in our city specifically and in our state, they've really gotten behind our program in the sport in general. And as big as football is and all these other things going on in Columbus, I can't go a day without being in the city and somebody say, boy, I really love watching your team. I love the sport. And, no offense to my friends in men's basketball, but I watch it more than men's basketball now. It's a little more team-friendly game and some things like that. So I think we've just evolved in a massive way, and it's just been awesome to see, and I'm really excited to see where it goes from here.
Well, all three of you, again, are a huge part of continuing to move the sport forward. We appreciate the time, Kevin, Marisa, Joe. Best of luck this season. We'll see you on the desk a little bit later, so don't go far. But once again, we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.